Greetings! Welcome to my video. I'm Ton. Hope you enjoy. Ever heard of Spider-Man? Good luck finding an opinion piece on this obscure character. Films featuring him never seem to incite any discussion. Not much to say other than they're all perfect. Okay, you get where I'm going with this. Voicing your thoughts on a live-action Spider-Man interpretation isn't the most original idea. So why did I bother making a how long a video on a movie from 16 years ago? What's left to be said about Spider-Man 2? Well, I'm pretty confident saying there's quite the list of things people don't address. Things I find worth shedding a light on. Maybe see what others might have to say about them. But to be absolutely frank, the greatest inspiration for this project was undeniably the YouTube content creator who goes by the name Mauler. Highly recommend subscribing to him. You could also consider this a heads up on what sort of content you can expect. Not that I want to, nor think myself capable of copying his style, but I do admire it, and am certain that will reflect in my videos, whether I want it to or not. There's a subconscious for you, a term that just might come up in the review. One further heads up, mild swearing ahead. Some remarks just wouldn't feel complete without. I'll be using short clips from the movie to better clarify what I'm commenting on, while filling the time between with my gaming footage. I'll try to recite all relevant plot elements as I go, but not everything will be addressed in order of occurrence, so it's best if you've seen the movie. The more recently, the less confusing. With all that out of the way, let's have a look through the good and the bad of Spider-Man 2. We begin stylishly enough with that oh-so-recognizable note accompanying the Columbia logo. What better time to address the music within this film? Who doesn't love a good old Danny Elfman score? He's perfect at setting the mood of any scene, but if I were to make a personal complaint, as if I've only doing a handful of that, I would have enjoyed the addition of something catchy. This film is one of very few Spidey pictures to never have me hum anything. Despite my many efforts, spanning multiple years, every attempt to recall this opening theme led to a mental mashup with that of Batman and Robin, a Batman product Elfman didn't work on. I don't mean to suggest inspiration was taken from that massively flawed attempt of a movie, but then again, did you notice when I swapped between the two tracks in the background? It's a minor complaint, an admitted nitpick even. Not being a big music buff, I'd say the soundtrack was worthy of its praise. Next come the glorious opening credits befitting of this trilogy. Although I preferred the first movie's CGI spider lookover, I can't deny the paintings are amazing and a joy to look at. They clearly didn't want to do the same thing twice, though I think some Doc Ock action with the same effects would have also been fun. So they gave us this cool recap of the first movie. It works, and honestly, I leave them alone, if not knowing the better purpose they could have served for this film. Something I'll touch upon later. The best painting is coming up. The cemetery scene, aka the perfect ending. The ultimate character-defining decision. Peter was just told, through no uncertain terms, that he can have the one thing he desired throughout the movie. That's by no means hyperbole. It's established within the first minute of his existence on the big screen.
This, like any story worth telling, is all about a girl. That girl.
And those feelings carried through the whole film, despite everything Peter had gone through. And it all built to this. Happiness is within his grasp, but he can't have it. More accurately, he won't. As seen in the third act, the position of Spider-Man's girlfriend is an inherently dangerous one. One Peter can't put the woman he loves so deeply in. He has no other choice. After seeing Peter become an exemplary comic book hero who's not afraid to risk his life for others, we see him become the very best by making the ultimate sacrifice and breaking his own heart. Whew. Okay, on to the next frame of Spider-Man's story.
What?
Yeah, just as the first shot indicates, Peter won't be too successful at keeping MJ out of his life. Not what I'd consider a strong start, but to this movie's credit, it's a fitting hint of how committed Peter will tend to be to any of his decisions and to where the film's focus lies. Hey little Jimmy, excited to see Spider-Man save the day again? Too bad. This film is 80% rom-com. Spoilers, the comedy sucks. Well, all the comedy that doesn't include J.K. Simmons. Oddly enough, pure superhero movies will have far better comedy in the near future. You'd think Spidey would own this element, but he doesn't. This guy will quip less than Deadpool. In Origins Wolverine. Don't worry, we don't get anything else right about his character either.
She looks at me every day.
Narration.
Mary Jane Watson.
Ding!
Oh boy.
Except it's not a sin. Several good movies have used this tool effectively, so don't bother me with that visual medium crap. Spider-Man narrates in everything that isn't a movie, and I miss that he doesn't do this at all in newer films. And I don't think he does it enough in this trilogy either. The second and third installments don't even close out with narration like the first did. Just another example of how that one's the best, even if not perfect. Okay, done gushing over the first film. This one kicks off with Peter running late for his shift as a pizza boy. The implied reason is that he had to do some Spider-Manning on his way there, exemplifying the difficulties of a double life. Classic Spidey problem established effectively. You did good, movie. So then our hero races the clock to make his delivery, but realizes the only way to do so is to take to the skies. Now, I've heard people remark it was dumb of him not to do this from the start, but I don't fault him for saving this as a last resort. Those powers are for saving lives, not for personal gain. Exhibit A. Hell yeah! Not 5 minutes in, my man Spidey's already saving some kids' lives. Can we also appreciate the pure joy of this scene? Not only did he swing them to safety on time, but he didn't even scare them either with a sudden jolt or due to his reputation as a criminal. They're kids, they're not gonna care, they thank him. This fills the audience and Peter with a warmth that'll be real nice to recall at some harsher times. They may be closer than you think. See for yourself. Peter, who is secretly sporting some Neo-esque dodging abilities, has met his match. Brooms. Well, that's just accurate. This may just be my favorite part of the film, due to the solid point it makes. Spider-Man's mobility is, well, amazing. But any ability a person has can be crippled by a lack of confidence, something that's been cemented in Peter Parker by many long years of bullying and generally being a social outcast. Putting on the mask, as well as the anonymity that comes with, acts as a reassuring shield for him, not unlike the one we can all experience online. It's a thoughtful duality, one you can base an entire movie on. Maybe not this movie, though. On one hand, it is a clever way of foreshadowing the concept of mind over matter, which plays a role later. On the other hand, Peter's only ever shown to achieve anything while beneath the mask. Between the confidence, sense of satisfaction, the thought that he'd make late Uncle Ben proud, the thrills he couldn't have gotten numb to yet, it's hard not to see the Spidey life as the best part of his life. And yet he's supposed to want out of it? Let's pin that question for later. I take it back. There are several scenes better than the aforementioned. Specifically, the JJ scenes. These are comedic gold, something that I mostly attribute to J.K. Simmons' talent to go over the top with his character, while still making it seem 100% natural. You can't help but love this character, despite the effect he has on Peter's life. So let's make sure to remember.
Spider-Man won't let me take any more pictures. You've turned the whole city against him.
A fact I'm very proud of.
For now, that's all the time we had to spare for JJ, as Peter is running late for his class at college. Connors straight up tells him it's over. How could you not tell that the class was over and there's no point in going, let alone running? How could you not see this before you went to the Bugle and switched them up, or only go to the more important one? Are we to assume he had more Spider-Maning to do on each trip, or that he's a piss-poor judge of time? All these questions about a scene I can't deny started immensely strong. I do relate a lot with those seconds of film where everyone's being an asshole on the go. Anyway, Connors also tells Pete he has an essay to finish, or he'll flunk the class. The young man reassures him that his paper on Otto Octavius's work will be the stuff of legends. And since this movie is so perfect at juggling the lives of Peter and Spidey, we never learn how he did with the test, or if he passes Connors' class. Is the story any lesser for not divulging that information to the viewer? No. There's a whole different problem here, though.
Octavius is a friend of mine. Better do your research.
Awesome! Is what every comics fan thinks the first time they hear him say that. Those words were all the validation this movie could ever need to have these two brilliant minds, destined for tragedy through their attempts at scientific breakthrough, share a scene and have a conversation. Can you just imagine them arguing over the moral connotations of their innovations? Or see one consoling the other, or just empathizing over their failure? Hell, the comedic possibilities of such a scene alone have proven quite vast time after time.
Selvig has figured out how to stabilize the quantum tunneling effect.
Well, if he could do that, he could achieve heavy ion fusion at any reactor on the planet.
Finally, someone who speaks English.
Is that what just happened?
I'm sorry, you're saying there's a multiverse? Because I thought that was just theoretical. I mean, that completely changes how we understand the initial singularity. We're talking about an eternal inflation system, and how does that even work with all the quantum? It's insane. Sorry.
The amount of potential payoffs is limitless. Excited yet? They did this for
Parker,
one
now
sentence.
I remember you. You're Connor's student. Tells me you're brilliant. He also tells me you're lazy.
Please tell me how.
Peter Parker. Brilliant but lazy.
A sentence that adds nothing to the movie. And that's Connors' character in a nutshell. Why introduce such a big name of the spider lore if they don't have anything to contribute to the movie? World building? Fair enough. Moving on to scenes at Aunt May's house, in which several key characters are expanded upon. These are the three most important people of Peter's life, so the conversations within this scene are as meaningful as you'd expect. First in line is Harry, who delivers some boring but necessary exposition. He works at Oscorp, he hired Dr. Octavius, MJ still loves Peter. You know, the stuff you skip on repeat viewings, thus missing out on his weird compulsions to his friend's claims of being a busy man.
I've been busy.
Taking pictures of Spider-Man?
It's an excellent line, an absolutely organic display of his anger at our hero, and the friend he feels is betraying him by making money off of his father's murderer. One question though. Is Harry really petty enough to drop this line twice within the same minute?
Why, you dead?
I've been kind of busy.
Taking pictures of your friend?
Or maybe, and bear with me on
there?
this one, it was left in the script by mistake and nobody involved with production cared enough to question why he isn't acting like an actual person would. Or maybe they just wanted to balance out the genuinely good writing coming up, as well as the second of exactly 3 good performances in this film. With over 50 years of theater work experience, it's no wonder Rosemary Harris outshines the rest of the cast. This part where she gives what little she has to the boy she's raised as her own, rather than save it for the mortgage she's running late on. Words literally fail me. Thank you, Mrs. Harris. Well, that was emotionally impactful. How do we get off this high? An MJ scene. Of course. What makes MJ scenes so terrible? Not Kirsten Dunst, let's be clear on that. The role she was cast to play was destined to be an unremarkable character, regardless of the actress's talent. Scenes shared by the two leads fail their goal to make us see what a cute couple they'd make, how much they connect, and why they belong together. No matter how many times the script forces them to interact, an element imitated and surpassed in all other Spidey sequels, you can't expect chemistry from a single component. Due to MJ's lack of a personality beyond being the main character's love interest, we're only really invested in this relationship because of Peter's frequently repeated statements about how much she means to him. But that can only affect us for so long. About halfway through the movie, I'd say, at which point we stop rooting for them and reach our new standpoint. Just move on, Pete. She's your first crush. You're not destined to be with her. You used to understand that. It's probably nitpicking. Nobody expects Shakespeare from a comic book movie. I would not have brought it up if not for the snowball effect it will have on the story. Wait, here's a sweet little moment.
I'm seeing somebody now.
And now it's awkward.
What do you mean?
Peter promises to attend her play the next day, and that's the end of their chat. We are then treated to a scene in Peter's apartment complex. An okay section, but not without its share of questions I'm left asking. What happened to the flat he lived in with Harry? Did he move out when Harry inherited his father's mansion? Shouldn't he be moving back in with May so they can split her expenses? But then we wouldn't get this hilarious landlord, or his pretty daughter who's clearly crushing on Peter, 'cause no woman can resist a baby-faced socially awkward nerd with money problems, right? Anyway, that is it for that essential scene. Time to address the third valuable performance. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the expressive face of Alfred Molina. He can effortlessly convey everything. Pride, fondness, sorrow, hatred. The studio was lucky to have him as Otto Octavius, but failed to utilize his range. That scene where he and his wife talk with Peter about life stuff is exactly what this movie needed more of. A chance to flesh out Pete and Otto's relationship. Don't take my word for it. Take it from the best piece of Spider-Man media we've gotten in 2018. Actually, I was referring to Spider-Man for the PS4.
If you'd like to seek a position with more of a future...
I came here to work for you because of what you've got up here. And that's not going anywhere. So neither am I.
Also, Doc Ock brings out the best in Peter. He's single-handedly responsible for 2 out of 3 scenes total, where Peter uses some actual science jargon, making him at least slightly reminiscent of the character he's based on. Hold on. Something sounds off. Roll that back. Doc Ock has a wife? Well, that's kind of a drastic change. Did it serve any purpose? To be fair, it's an okay way of turning him into a credible love guru for Peter, which he wouldn't need if this movie wasn't a rom-com. Maybe it's so Otto could lose her, and for that to damage his psyche to the point of becoming the craziest comic book movie villain ever. I wouldn't put it past this relentless movie, but it's a concept that all but disappears by the end. Rosie isn't ever mentioned past the 44-minute mark.
Not even halfway through!
I like Dr. Freeze as much as the next guy, but this isn't just an element that can be randomly placed into a villain's story and improve it. I realize that a correction is in order on my part. My research turned up that I have misread the role Rosalie Octavius is meant to serve, but I choose to leave my faulty theorizing in the finished video. Let the record show I am more than willing to give this movie its due credit, and to own up to my mistakes when they're proven to occur. As other film enthusiasts and the film staff itself have pointed out, the fact that Dr. Octavius is a happily married man was invented so that Peter could have a glance at what he'll miss out on if he keeps denying himself a relationship with the woman he loves. I did not catch that, and that's on me. It may have been too deep for me to understand. Maybe I hold an unconscious bias against this sort of subtext. In any case, we can declare Rosalie Octavius is more than a female character with little to no personality, created for the sole purpose of killing her off, and thus influence her more relevant male partner. She's a female character with little to no personality, created for the sole purpose of influencing our protagonist. Cool, cool. So, what's his takeaway from the fact that she dies an early death due to her husband's hubris? Are people just doomed to lose their soulmates regardless of living the superhero life or not? Is love just all around hopeless? Again, not a direction that would surprise me with this film. The next scene is at a laundromat, and I find it remarkable. Having spent a full season working as a film extra, I've got some educated estimates as to how long it took to shoot these 35 seconds, all to deliver 2 jokes? I honestly can't tell with this movie. I can see them thinking that they've added something valuable to Peter's character by having him mess up his wash. Did you know Spider-Man can't catch a break? Yes, we've already exemplified that 6 times through the first 15 depressing minutes. But it's the 7th time that I truly appreciate. Wouldn't want this aspect to go unnoticed, like his sense of humor, or intelligence, or willpower. As long as bad things happen to him, he's the best Spider-Man. Also, he's reading poetry now, because Otto said that makes you a hit with the ladies. First off, color me skeptical, but more to the point, he's doing this. Why? I figured he was ready to deny himself a love life, knowing that any woman he loves will just get sought out by all his enemies. Maybe Peter just wants game so he can get some casual poon. Spider-Man 2, the amazing pickup artist. Feeling disgusted yet? Wait until the poem is readdressed. For now, Peter has to get ready for MJ's play, which leads to another admitted highlight of the movie. Turns out, Peter's a total slob who just throws a shirt on the floor. Talk about relatability. I kid, but I do want to give credit to this shot of him looking into his closet to see his 2 suits. When I saw this movie at a young age, I interpreted Peter's thought process as, "Time to pick what I'm gonna wear tonight. Oh right, I'm dirt poor." But nowadays, I feel the intent of that scene is to show a legit dilemma he's facing here. Do I wear my Spidey suit tonight? I always do. You never know when people might be in trouble. But this is Mary Jane's play I'm going to see. Even after that, I hope to spend some time with her. Can't I take a night off? As we learn maybe a minute later, he cannot. Be still, my beating heart. My hero makes a cameo in his movie. But between his scenes, we keep following not Peter Parker over here. Yeah, I said it. As he explains his superhero landing to some kids. And we're okay with that. We don't mind if Spidey hits the brakes on crime fighting to interact with civilians. That would be a senseless complaint. Never mind that, something awesome is about to happen. I would have raised complaints about the web-swinging graphics in this movie if not for this single epic shot. With the nameless baddies successfully apprehended, not Peter heads to the theater, gets trolled by a reoccurring cameo. No, not that one. The rip-off joke over here. Ultimately, he misses the play, so he waits through the whole thing outside, which I know must sound like the saddest thing ever, but honestly, Outside is where the real art is happening, as a citizen sings Spider-Man's praises.
Whatever a spider can, spins a web any size, catches thieves, or just grabs flies, all kinds.
Ethnic humor is the funniest kind of humor.
Appreciate the reference to his classic theme song. Makes this scene nice and unforgettable. Seems like his patience might just pay off as MJ leaves the theater, until she gets some company. Feeling the distance between him and the woman he loves grow slightly more monumental, Peter goes swinging. When this happens. With his power of web spinning abandoning him, his only way down is the elevator, where of course he runs into someone. That's how you build on the concept of Spidey loses his powers. Is this how you go on from it, though? It's kind of odd to find an alleged criminal in your elevator, remain unfazed, get into said elevator, and start a conversation with him with a compliment.
Cool Spidey outfit.
Has Jameson convinced anyone that Spidey isn't a hero?
Pictures. You've turned the whole city against him.
A fact I'm very proud of.
It was downright wholesome for the kids to not be scared of him. The singing lady was a neat little reference. But this guy is the third strike, with little to no examples of any actual civilian hostility towards Spider-Man. If you strain yourself, you may recall that one guy who jumped to an arguably biased conclusion.
Whoa! He stole that guy's pizza!
Been busy.
And let's throw Aunt May's remark in there to be good sports.
That's the bug these days.
The less you see of that man, the better. Now,
Long story short, the film forgot its own premise that the public got swayed by the media to hate its protector. Last time we saw this done right was with a handful of cops back in the previous movie. And that leads into a complaint I've been saving for more relevant moments. This is a sequel. Been trying to ignore that, and the fact that it's also an adaptation, and criticize it as its own piece, and will mostly continue to do so, but it's pretty evidently relying on the viewer having seen the first installment, in which case it probably should have better handled some prior events. I'll get to those later. This movie shows a continuous problem of betraying its own themes for jokes, none of which are made by Marvel's biggest quipper, mind you. He's too busy standing in awkward silence. I didn't think you could make a character the polar opposite of Spider-Man more effectively, but the movie still has 90 minutes to go, so... Cut to the next morning when our protagonist calls MJ from a street phone to try and explain himself. Now, if these were any other variations of the characters, that explanation would go, "Sorry, MJ, there was a bank robbery, and I had to take pictures for the Bugle of Spider-Man catching the culprits." And the response would go, "No problem, Tiger." But this is Tobey Maguire and Kirsten Dunst's rendition of them, so smarts and chill gets replaced by whining and bitching. And a good helping of Peter talking out loud to himself about his deepest secret.
I'm Spider-Man.
Which is a poor substitute for the inner monologues I mentioned these movies ought to have done.
Now you know why I can't be with you. If you got hurt, I could never forgive myself. I wish I could tell you how I feel about you.
I will say that it wouldn't be fair to point at this public space confession and call it stupid, because we know his spidey sense would warn him if anyone were within earshot of him. Hang on. Do we know that? First of all, within 2 scenes of Spider-Manning across half an hour, Sid's sense had yet to be demonstrated. Whatever, we've seen the first movie, so we know he has it, but we've also seen the past 3 minutes, where he lost the ability to shoot webs. Are we to just not assume that any other powers have left him, nor that they could leave him at any given moment? Is that not a risk Peter would take into careful consideration? What an idiot! Oh well, no use dwelling on this stupid action. We've got many more to get to scattered throughout the movie. On the other hand, this seems like an ideal spot for a break. We shall pick up with the next scene in part 2. Thank you for coming. Take care.